What's up, Carl?
Eva, bro, how you doing?
Good man. I was nervous. I thought, oh shit, this guy's not gonna make it.
No,
No.
I'm not going to leave you hanging. I'm sorry I left you hanging for a bit, but I'm not going to let you down. What's going on?
But listen, do you have a barber there or what? How come you always stay fresh?
So, basically, always hair clippers,
Yeah.
and there are some amazing tutorials on YouTube to cut your own hair. So, literally, I cut
Oh,
my hair
that fade is cool.
self-taught, clip, cut on top as well, thinned on top, and then obviously I did a fade and blended in.
Yeah.
And this is now the fourth time that I've cut my hair. I actually cut it this morning.
Wow.
And I cut my son's hair as well. So, yeah, that's literally, people don't believe me, but that's honest to God true.
Okay, so let's do our intro, guys. Welcome to the show. This is Upfront with the Cats. I'm the grizzly-looking guy. Obviously, my barber's closed. Like, I don't have any shears. So, and Colin Nathan, one of our top coaches, every Tuesday we talk about boxing inside the ring. We've talked about Sugar Ray Leonard. Last week was Manny Pacquiao. And that sort of led us to this week's conversation about Floyd Money Mayweather. Some people love him. Some people hate him. Some people love to hate him. But no matter what, he's undefeated. Let's go straight into it. Let's go back to the beginning of his career. He starts from a lineage of good fighters, his dad and his uncle. Let's hand over to Colin Nathan, one of our top boxing coaches over the past 10 years or more. What's up, Carl?
Yeah, good afternoon. And obviously, thanks for having me back on, and to all the guys who are watching and tuning in. Yeah, Mayweather was pretty much born into boxing, with Floyd Sr. obviously being a relatively decent pro, fighting the great Sugar Ray Leonard as well. And then obviously his uncle Roger Mayweather. And don't forget about Jeff Mayweather as well. It was a minor world champion, winning the IBO world championship at one stage. So kind of born into it. Didn't have much of a choice, or did have a choice, but chose boxing. Got a bronze medal at the Atlanta Games in '96.
Right.
And a lot of people thought that he was robbed of a gold medal. It was a very dubious decision. And then he obviously turned pro and signed with Top Rank. And he was just destroying guys. I mean, he was one of those guys that was coming up. And it was interesting because early on in his career, Floyd had two routes to go.
Yeah.
He had the looks and he had the smile, and he could have been the next Sugar Ray Leonard. But he chose to go down to the gangster route and look for a bad boy image, always getting in fights and stuff early on. And that didn't sit well with the boxing fans in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of that kind of image that was casted that he wanted to project. And tearing guys up. And he got a very, I would say, semi-premature opportunity to fight the late and great Gennario Hernandez for the WBC Junior Lightweight Championship. And a lot of people thought that it was a little too soon and way too much of a big ask for him to do. And then what happened was, obviously, being Floyd, he absolutely destroyed Hernandez and stopped him and won his first world championship. And that was when people actually stood up and said, sat up and said, you know what, this kid's really good, really, really good. And then obviously he fought Angel Manfredi. He stopped him in 2 rounds, which was a really good win. And then one of his standout wins actually early in his career as well, besides the Hernandez fight, was Diego Chico Corrales. And Corrales was going into that fight also unbeaten, very big junior lightweights, or I think it was junior lightweight at the time. And Mayweather absolutely just took him apart. And that's when Mayweather actually had good legs and was cracky guys. And then obviously as he started going up in the divisions, he kind of lost that firepower and he lost his legs because obviously he got old. But Floyd was really clever. His first HBO pay-per-view event was against Arturo Gatti. But it happened in Atlantic City, New Jersey, and that's where Gatti was based. And he was the draw. So if you look back before Mayweather, I'd say the last 3-4 years of his career, what he was really good at, and this is where he's really smart as a business person, he would tailor off the fighter who would do the biggest numbers. And what I mean by that So when he fought De La Hoya, for example, when he fought De La Hoya, he knew the numbers would be big because of De La Hoya. Again, like I'm not saying he wasn't a draw. I'm just saying that he wasn't the biggest draw. And a lot of people actually fail to understand that. As well as like Ricky Hatton, that was a smart move. Although, Ricky really did put up a good fight. But like what I'm saying to you is that if you look at how he matched himself, because remember, he bought himself out of the top-ranked contracts. It was well publicized. The check was in social media a few years ago. I think he paid $1 million to be released or whatever it was. And then thereafter, Floyd became his own man. Remember, early in his career, it was called Pretty Boy.
Yeah.
And then he changed it to Money. And we've discussed this on your shows previously. I'm not a Mayweather fan, but I do admire his boxing skills and his ring savvy and his business acumen. I think he's just really, really sharp. I don't think he's the greatest fighter in boxing history, but I do think he's one of the greats. But what a remarkable career. And the fact that he could go on... Sorry, pardon me?
I would say he's one of the cleverest because...
Yeah, definitely.
Picking the right fights, knowing how to stay away from the punch. I mean, shoot.
Look, I mean, there have been a few defensively great fighters that I've been alive watching. I would think that Pernell Whitaker is one of them, but I would have to say that Mayweather is one of the greatest defensive fighters in boxing history. I would even go as far as saying that he's probably defensively better than Pernell Whitaker, who I think's obviously an all-time great. And, Whitaker got put over a couple of times, but Mayweather's defense was just something special. And I think that was also one of the reasons why he had such longevity in the sport, is because of his defense. And I always tell my young fighters, if you want a long career in boxing, your defense is just as important as punching, as your offense. So I think he had a really good career. And definitely, I mean, a Hall of Fame, 50-0. It's weird to call the fight against McGregor a fight, because to me it was more an event.
That's why.
But here's a strange thing. When that fight happened, you had some guys thinking that McGregor could win. I mean, it was just crazy. So, but a remarkable 5-division champion, junior lights, junior welter, and obviously junior middleweight champion.
I think he went 5 divisions, right? He's been in 5 divisions.
5-division world champion, correct.
4 lineal titles.
I'm not sure if he was lineal champion. One of the problems Mayweather has with his legacy, and the boxing purists will attest to this, is that he never unified divisions. And that was one of his biggest downfalls, I think. Another downfall was the criticism that he used to take when he used to fight opponents. And generally what would happen is Mayweather would fight opponents when he wanted to fight them, not when, there were rumors and strong theory that he ducked Antonio Margarito when Margarito was WBO welterweight champ. The story goes is he's too big and too strong. That was kind of tainted. And then again, like people say, oh yeah, but when he fought Canelo was too green. When he fought Cotto was already over the hill. When he fought Pacquiao, well, that happened 5 or 6 years too late. When he fought De La Hoya, well, De La Hoya wasn't the same guy. So there's always going to be that criticism. It's always going to be like, well, and I've said this before, will Muhammad Ali beat Mike Tyson? Or could he have? Well, maybe, or no. But we'll never know, because these are just fantasy fights. So I think that's going to taint Mayweather's career. But at the end of the day, the record speaks for itself. And the young generation, and I have to say the young generation, and I like to think you and I are kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
But even guys older than you and I will say that Mayweather is the greatest fighter of all time. And I have a huge problem with that. I have a huge problem. Although, but he never lost. Okay. But that doesn't mean you're the greatest fighter of all time just because you never lost.
That's why
it might be because you're a smart guy and you're a smart businessman. But the point is that a lot of people need to understand that just because a fighter doesn't lose or hasn't lost and he's got this perfect glossy record doesn't mean he's the greatest fighter of all time. Yeah. And that's where young fans get very mixed up and confused.
See, my thing about Mayweather is, no matter what you say, you just mentioned how many fights that he fought. For example, Canelo when Canelo was too fresh. Some guys when they were over the hill. But his knack for picking the fight and the fighter at the right time is amazing. So I always ask myself, who's helped him with those picks? Especially now that he's got on his own. He's just a very intelligent kid. I mean, whether you like him or not, what do you say about that part of his game? The fact that he knows how to choose. His timing always was right.
Well, I also think he had Al Haymon behind him as a very smart businessman. And I also just think he had a good boxing brain.
Yeah.
But here's the reason why I think Mayweather's great. When he beats Canelo, people can say that Canelo was green. I think he was. I think he was. But look at what Canelo's gone on since then.
How is
and
he,
I think
just sorry to
exactly.
If you watch Canelo now, he's almost got some Floyd-esque movements. His defense is on a whole nother level now. Canelo is a whole nother fighter.
Correct. And that's why I think, and also Cotto went on to win the linear middleweight championship of the world by beating Sergio Martinez. So I think that's why you've got to consider Mayweather a great fighter. And I also have to say that I think he's an all-time great. But I'm going to repeat myself. I still don't think he's the greatest.
He's an all-time great.
Well, personally, like I'm saying, I just, the whole gangster mentality, the money stuff, to me, that's just too much, and I think he set the trend for young fighters in a very negative way. Although, we also have to understand that boxing nowadays is not just boxing, it's a show and it's business. So he revolutionized the sport of boxing, and I think he's almost like a pioneer. And one thing I do respect about Mayweather, even though I don't like him, one thing I do respect about him is that he stood up for himself. He proved, which I still think is a massive, massive thing, that fighters have a voice. The most important person in boxing is the fighter. Not the promoter, not the trainer, not the manager. Because without the fighter, we don't all have jobs. None of us have jobs. So what I'm thinking is that he led the way for fighters to stand up and say, you know what, I'm not doing it. Like, I'll give you another example. Mayweather came out here in 2013, I believe. 2014, excuse me. And everyone was asking him, when are you going to fight Pacquiao? When are you going to fight? He kept bridging the question. But what he did was, he said, I'm going to be running a poll, and I'm going to be getting my fans to vote who they want me to fight. And the poll was between Amir Khan and Marcos Maidana.
Yeah.
Amir Khan won the poll, right? So what does Mayweather do? He fights Marcos Maidana. Not once, but twice, because the first fight was very competitive. I thought Mayweather won, very close. Second fight, no dispute. But that just shows you, I'm going to let the fans choose. Okay, well, no, you're not, because your fans wanted you to fight Amir, and you chose, So those are the kind of things that Mayweather did, and it pissed a lot of boxing people off and boxing fans as well. But remarkable career. I don't think the most exciting fighter, but if you like smooth boxing and if you liked the technical aspect of the sport, Mayweather's your guy. Definitely, Mayweather's your guy.
What I want to talk about now is Mayweather's got that amazing windscreen wiper effect thing. Where was that inspired from? Because even when we're in the ring, if you use that proper, it's amazing because you can block and counter with the other hand. I mean,
a lot of that comes from his dad and his uncle. His dad, if you see his dad coaching as well, that stuff's honestly, that stuff's ingrained in you. Like, I see a lot of young fighters trying to do it, and they don't do it particularly well. But a lot of the fighters also back in the 20s and 30s that would do that kind of shoulder roll and stuff. But he's perfected it, And one thing about Mayweather is, early on in his career, his defense was, his legs were his biggest defense. But as he got on and he had to stand because he never had the legs that he used to when he was younger, his defense was impeccable. And that shoulder roll was one of his key assets in defense when he would use a roll off and counter off of it. So that's what I'm saying. I think technically, if you wanted to, because kind of in the end, besides the McGregor fight, we always knew that Floyd was going to go 12 rounds.
Yeah.
You weren't going to get a first round knockout. I mean, Victor Ortiz, kind of a cheap shot, but legal. Joe Cortez, I believe, did not take control of that fight. But inevitably, you got to protect yourself at all times. So you got that knockout. And then the McGregor fight, I mean,
okay.
Yeah, I mean, let's not even talk.
So let's talk about the McGregor fight. I personally, if I had a wish, I'd want him to come back for one more, just for one more authentic. Do you know what I'm saying? To make because I can't really count that as number 50. I'd like him to maybe come and fight Pacquiao or someone, just to make sure okay, guys, I came back and I did my thing. This is my legacy for sure, because you guys were unhappy with what I did. Jason likes your coffee cup.
Yeah. I've been getting it at Loof. Loof's open for takeaways, guys. So if you're in the Norwood area, come get your Loof.
Just join us. Just quickly, Colin. This is Inside the Ring.
Jason's actually one of my heavyweight fighters, so big shout out to him. And I see Matt Leishing's on as well, so it's great to be with boxing folk. So there's one fight for Mayweather that I think is relevant, and not a lot of people want to see it, but I would think the rematch with Pacquiao. Pacquiao's on a roll now after his upset win against Keith Thurman.
Yeah.
They're both in their 40s, Kaz. There was the. I mean, I guess you and I are in our 40s as well. But the thing is, the thing is that, and even if they fight again, I would think it's not so much for legacy. Let's be real. Both their legacies are set.
Yeah.
It would be merely for money. I can't see any other reason for the two of them to get back in the ring and fight again. I mean, there's talk of Errol Spence. There's talk of Terence Crawford's desperate for a big fight. We've seen that. We've seen his promoter talking about this fight and that fight. So he's also getting itchy. But the only fight for me that would make sense for Mayweather is to fight Pacquiao again. Because remember, there were allegations of a shoulder injury that Pacquiao went into the ring. His left shoulder wasn't 100% going in. So there's always that story. But, inevitably, both their legacies are set.
So I'll tell you one thing I do respect about Mayweather, in the fact that he's avoided so many punches, which means he's avoided a lot of injury. And you just said just now, the fighter is the most important thing. Now, my favorite fighter of all time was Sugar Ray Robinson. And unfortunately, Sugar should have retired much. He took too many punches. People don't know about his legacy. And after he lost his fight, he went on to win another 80 before he lost again. So if you're looking at legacy, it's crazy. But the point is, Mayweather's been able to stay away from the punch and keep himself sane and safe. And he'll be here to take care of himself and his family for generations. And from an intellectual point of view, he's got his own intellectual property. He owns his money, his businesses, his kids are taken care of. So yes, it's a fine line between love and hate, but you got to respect. Am I right? Got to respect him.
I see Muhammad Wasim's on just joined us. Big shout out to him. It's a very close friend of mine and good fighter, future world champion as well. Salam Wasim. And also what you're seeing now, and I'm not sure what the intention or the motive is, but you're seeing Mayweather now kind of giving back. He wants to become a boxing trainer. I'm not sure if he can go into that role and apply himself the way he did as a fighter. Also, another thing which I'm really grateful for at this stage of my career, like I understand things a lot better. I'm grateful that I never boxed competitively. And let me tell you why. Is because I don't have a particular style. And a lot of these fighters who are great champions often coach fighters to the way they used to fight.
Yeah.
And they have a specific style, and the way they train is often the way they train the fighters. I don't have that. And I adapt and apply myself to the fighter's style that he or she brings to me. I don't know if he has the mental fortitude and stuff to go through coaching a fighter who doesn't fight or doesn't want to be coached the way he fights. And that's my concern. And the other factor is, how dedicated would Floyd be
Because he doesn't
having the
need
amount of money and success he has, going to the
to.
gym 6 days a week?
No, he would make a good mentor. Coming in maybe from a management point of view, but I don't see him doing one-on-one coaching. He could come through, mentor, have his coaches underneath, work in the Mayweather gyms and stuff like that. But he's got so much cash, and really, I mean, at this point, I don't think he'd have the attention span to do that. What do you think would be next for him? I mean, do you think he would come back? Because his ego, bro, his ego. You got to look at
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it's a good question, and here's the thing. He says he's not coming back, but I somehow don't believe or trust his word, because he said that before and he's come back.
And why the charity? Excuse me. Why the charity fights? Remember when we saw George Foreman, for example? There's a lot of fighters that came back doing charity fights, almost as warm-ups to test the ground, and then let's just watch. Let's just hold his space.
I don't know. I don't know whether he is going to come back or he's going to stay retired. All I know is that I have a feeling that I can't trust his word. So
you don't like him, man. You don't like.
No. I just don't think. I think ego is a big part of it. There were stories going around that he needs to fight again. I'm not sure if I believe those stories because of the money. I think, Kaz, if he comes back, I think it's going to be a combination of money and ego, not to prove that because like I'm saying, his legacy's done. It's cast in stone. He's in the Hall of Fame. There's going to be debates when you and I go and leave this earth, if he's the greatest fighter of all time. So I think the only thing which would draw him back in a ring would be money or ego, or both.
Well, I just said, I think we both agree that we'd like to see a Pacquiao fight if he does come back. Looking at the future, who do we see as maybe a formidable, maybe a future Mayweather? Someone that could possibly break that record. I mean, obviously Wilder lost the fight, so his record is gone. He was pushing for that, but...
You know what, like fighters like Mayweather and Pacquiao, they come along once in a generation. That's what I truly believe. It's going to be hard to fill those shoes. There are fighters, Terence Crawford's doing well. Is he good enough to, take that, surpass Mayweather's supremeness in terms of records and titles? I'm not so sure. I do think he's a talented fighter, but I don't think he's as good as Mayweather. I don't know if that fighter's come yet. There's a lot of hype jobs at the moment. Ryan Garcia seems to be talking a hell of a lot on social media.
I think Ryan needs to get a bit stronger, though. I mean, he's got talent, but I think maybe a bit more strength, because he's in a hectic division now.
He's in a hectic division, and he's just showing his immaturity by just mouthing off on social media. And I like him. I think he's really good. I think he's promoter's
like
dream.
He's like the young
Oscar De La Hoya, absolutely.
He just looks like De La Hoya, bro.
Yeah, it's crazy. And they're doing a great job with him. Yeah. I don't know if that fighter's boxing yet. Again, and they're often surprise packages. But with Mayweather, he was always destined to be a star. But when he beat Janario Hernandez for the BC Junior Lightweight title, that was spectacular. And just an all-time great fighter,
I'll tell you what, Colin, just talking about fighters that stand out, someone that's always been in my eye before anyone knew about him was Lomachenko. Southpaw, moves like a matador. Just...
The problem with Lomachenko is, and I think he's great, and a lot of people feel that he should be pound for pound number one. I'm one of the few people that do think that he should be pound for pound number one. Is of his age, the age factor, and his long, extensive career as an amateur. I think that could plague him, and I don't know how much longer he's actually going to carry on for. But Lomachenko's great. Yeah. Will he have the kind of career Mayweather has had, even though he's lost once, which I don't really particularly care about fighters losing? Yeah. No.
You see, I think also, I think it was a similar story to Triple G. They held him back from fighting the top fighters for a long time. You know, it's almost like they're scared of those top fighters. Lomo could do really well if we bring him in and really get him a bunch of amazing fights, but it's all about timing. I think we need to talk about who we're going to talk about next week, because
You tell me.
okay, maybe we should go to a heavyweight. What do the guys think online? We've done. We can go back. We can go forward. We can go to Tyson Fury. We can go to Joshua.
See, I'm a big Tyson Fury fan. Also, I mean, he's part of MTK and like Viva MTK. But not only that, I think Tyson Fury's story is compelling because he's overcome depression, and he's been quite vocal about it. So, yeah, I mean, I'm Tyson Fury's I'm a big fan of his.
I think also it could be quite relative. So, guys, I think what we should do is let's do Tyson Fury next week, because there's a lot of things that he stands for. That at a time that we're going through a lot, I think a lot of people are going through a lot of depression and anxiety, and he's been doing a lot of challenges from home. Him and his wife have been challenging other people to train and stuff like that. Fury is the man. Okay, Mark says Fury is the man. We do Fury is the man. Okay, so before we go, we always have one more positive line from Colin to say goodbye. Colin, what's our final word for everyone watching?
I think things are starting to kind of ease up a little bit. I think we're very close to level 3. I still think this is a time to reflect. It's always a time to reflect. And although we're all like edging to get back to some sort of stability and normality, just remember that this is a situation that's out of our hands, and we need to cherish these moments, because I can tell you this much. We are never going to have this time again. Never. And when we get back to normality, we're going to miss this time. So understand the moment, savor the moment, appreciate the moment, and be grateful for this moment. I love you, Kaz. I'll see you next week.
Love you, Carl.
Viva.
Brother in arms. And also, before you go, we'd like to say happy birthday to Heki Butler.
Yes, for yesterday. Yeah, absolutely. The champ's birthday yesterday.
Okay, so Colin, thank you so much for joining us. I'll see you next week, same time, same place. Tyson Fury, my man.
Viva. God bless, brother. Take care.
God bless you, bro. Guys, thank you for joining Upfront with Kaz. This is Inside the Ring. It's been an awesome show. Today we discussed Floyd Mayweather. Next week we'll be talking about Tyson Fury. Catch me every day talking about different subjects with different experts in their field. This is my passion. Upfront with Kaz. We'll see you tomorrow with Hubby Malloy. And that should be a whole lot of fun. Thank you so much for joining us. With Kaz, it's one up. Goodbye. God bless you and your family.
If there was a problem, I'll turn it into greatness. If there's an anthem, let's sing of greatness. I think until I manifest truth.